think we can. Okay. OBS. This one. Switch over.
There you go.
I think. It's on?
No.
Jose? The lights?
Lights.
The lights?
Lights.
We need lights.
You need light.
Maybe.
How light do you want to get?
Okay.
Yeah, one.
Jose? Ah. The lights? The lights?
Just click there.
I think you have the time.
Okay. Awesome. Hi everyone, welcome to our second meetup this year. I'm Michael Stipe. I'm one of the organizers of this meetup, but there are more. There's Raphael, and there's Jose and Pascal and Martin and many others. Also, I'm very glad today we have some special guests. So Denis, one of our speakers, he came all the way from Vienna to speak here. So I'm very happy about that. So he's one of the many Guild people. And we also have Tobias here, one of our contributors. He's helping a lot with our open source project, so with Hot Chocolate. So if you read any documentation, he probably has written it, most of it. So thank you for that, Tobias. Okay, so what is a GraphQL meetup? So we are a meetup of GraphQL folks, and we want to spread the word of GraphQL and transfer knowledge between all these awesome companies that we have in the Zurich area. And there are quite a lot. Last time we were at Digitech, for instance, they are using heavily GraphQL. This time we are at Swiss Life. Swiss Life is using heavily GraphQL. So they are actually using bleeding edge stuff. We will see that today because one of their engineers will speak and do the first talk. So how does this work? How does a meetup work here? So every meetup we do will be in a different location. So we try to travel around. Last time Digitech, this time Swiss Life. Next time will be at Felfel, and then the very next time at Smartiv, and we have some other meetups already planned. So we try to bring you all to different companies so that you can connect with all these amazing engineers that work all over Zurich and transfer knowledge. Each event will have 3 talks. Each talk is done by a different set of people. Like we will always have one talk done by an engineer of that company where we host, and then we try to bring 2 other engineers in. Maybe like this time we got Denis to come over to Zurich. Next time we hope to get somebody else from the guild, but we'll see. Okay, so each talk is 25 minutes. That's also not so intimidating. If you hosted an event of the GraphQL meetup here in Zurich, so you will find someone in your company that can speak there. So even if you want to start to speak, we help you. If you don't know how to start on what to speak, we can help you on searching for topics or structure your talk. Just reach out to us. So it's 25 minutes a talk and 5 minutes for Q&A, or 20 minutes and 10 minutes of Q&A. So, and we saw last time people are engaged, people have questions, so it's a nice dialogue that you can establish. So how can you help? If you are working in a company that is doing GraphQL, maybe reach out to your team lead or whatever and try to convince him or her to host an event of the GraphQL Zurich meetup. It would be awesome that we get more people involved. Also, become a speaker here. As I said, we help you if you don't have an idea, but maybe you want to do it. Maybe you want to speak publicly at a meetup, we help you. Also, we have social accounts, so you can follow us on Twitter or on YouTube. All these meetups are recorded. You can watch them later. If you cannot make it to a meetup, you can hook up a remote. Hook up is maybe not the right word, but bear with me. But you can watch it online. So as I said, the next meetup is at Velvel in March. It's basically 200 meters this way. And they are all about good food at work. But they are doing a lot of coffee machines that run on GraphQL. Who knew? But we will find out next time. So the first talk we have today is done by one of the amazing Swiss Life engineers that we have. It's Domen. He will talk about building native apps with React and Relay. So it's basically the experience that they discovered here building a mobile application called Pando, I think. And he will share what they learned during that process. We also have Denis. No, Denis? This guy here talking about GraphQL over the internet. If you don't know Denis, he's responsible for a lot of GraphQL transport protocols. So GraphQL over WebSockets is, I think, the most commonly known of his protocols, but there are others, GraphQL SSE. GraphQL HTTP is very involved in the spec community to bring GraphQL transport over the internet to a standardization. Okay, then we will have another talk. Originally we had scheduled Benjie, but he got sick, so my brother jumped in. He will tell us all the new stuff that you can do with Banana Cake Pop. If you don't know what Banana Cake Pop is, it's a GraphQL IDE, and Rafi will tell us all about that. And with that, Domen, you can get ready. So you need introduction music.
Oh, you said this should be right.
So yes, you set it on. It's all good.
So yeah, so for the demo, I will present later. What?
We swap it. Yours is not working, so
It's not working.
now you have
Should
to.
I do it again?
It's all okay.
Okay. I have double.
Now it's.
Okay, yeah. So for the demo app that I will be actually showing you then later on, I'm using this stack here. On one side, we can see we have the GraphQL, the server, of course, from Hot Chocolate. What else can you use? And on the other side, on the client side, we have React Native. So if someone doesn't know React Native, it's basically a library which you can use to actually create truly native apps for iOS, Android. You can even go to smartwatches, TVs, even VR if you want to. So you have this. It's okay. Yeah, it was basically done already in 2015 by Meta. They used it internally, and in 2016, I think it was open sourced. So yeah, now we can use it, everyone. And in the middle, we have Relay. So if you don't know about Relay, which I doubt here because you're all in the GraphQL stuff, it's basically just a data management library which works with GraphQL. So that's more of it, what it does. So it has a lot of helpers that then actually helps you to build, the data flow for your app in a way that it's as smooth as possible so that your app works very well. We will see some of those helpers later in the app as well. So what about Swiss Life, right? So Swiss Life, is it using this stack? Yes, we are basically. We are using the same stack, but with React, so React, Relay, GraphQL, on our client portal with some other apps as well. We started actually quite early. I think it was end of 2018, somewhere there, so quite early. And what about React Native? Do you think we have something on that one? Yes, we have the amazing Pando app. Yes, so basically, what it is, it's basically a 3A pension pillar, a sustainable pension pillar. If you're not from Switzerland, yeah, it's basically a pension fund where you put your money in and then someday you will get it out, right, hopefully. The app itself even got a reward. You see up there, that blue nice logo there, awesome. It's got the Gold Award for the Best of Swiss Apps 2022. There is also the team, just a bit of marketing, sorry. So now I would like to tell you a little short story. It's more for fun. Let's say there was like a front-end guy, also a back-end guy. They were working on an app together. And basically, finally, the front-end guy was ready to show something. And he started the app, right? So let's start the metro, and then we go to the simulator. So this is actually the real simulator from React Native. So the front-end guy with the app, and this happened. Oh, crap. So that's actually the error screen from the React Native. Someone doesn't know. Super cool, right? And yeah, you can guess what the backend guy did then later, right? More or less that's what happens every day. Maybe the other way around, right? It's actually the front-end guy laughing at the you backend guys, but okay, fine. Now, what I wanted actually to show you guys is, can you see this code here? So we're talking about React Native here, okay? Can you spot here what is wrong? Someone? It's a banana. Well, it's a minion, so they like bananas, so I don't know why they put this banana here. But the main idea, sorry, it's not directly related to GraphQL, but I just want to point it out because a lot of times there are people coming to me and they're saying, yeah, but we did an application with React. It's quite good. It's awesome. And now you have it, right? You have the components. So just grab the components, throw them into the React Native, and we have the native app. Yeah, not really, right? So you cannot do this stuff. You cannot do like H1, banana, whatever. You cannot use HTML, right? So yeah, I will just throw this one out, then the application will be fine. I go back here really quick. So the browser will understand it because, of course, they understand HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You put it together, and it's fine. The React Native will understand some specific components. For example, here in the code, we can see on top, I'm importing view, scroll view from React Native, right? And this is then kind of mapped into the React Native world where we have actually native components there. And that's why it works. And it's the same if you do TV or whatever you want. OK, back to GraphQL topic. So now the app should be working, right? I can quickly restart it. And I put the simulator back here. So ta-da! And this was from before. So the app, as you can see, if you were already in some other talks from this meetup, I think you know the app. It's more or less the same one as Martin presented, but that one was for the web. We also have one for Maui. But this one is in the native world. So here we are using React Native to create it, right? So as you can see, we have some carousel on top with some, right, this is crypto stuff. So please don't go crazy now and start selling your stuff looking at the prices, because those are all wrong, okay? It's not the real stuff, so don't do that. But anyway, so we have, as you can see, we have here some data, we have some charts with some details. You can go back, scroll a bit. It's a nice thing. So let's move on and discuss queries. So where is the screen on? Sorry, yeah. So when we are talking queries with Relay, right, the first thing what we need on Relay is actually we need to do our environment, let's say, for Relay. That's more or less the network configuration. If you just need to do some simple queries, you just put there a simple fetch. It's fine, will work. If you need something more like authorization headers and so on, you will actually put it there as well. It's not like Apollo where you just put your URL to the server and it works. Here you need to do a bit more, but then it becomes then later better, let's say. What I really like about Relay is this composability thingy. So if I open this amazing tool here, the banana cake pop, you can see I put here some fragments, a query, and I really like Relay because you start thinking in the other way around than you normally would when you start to do your website and the data flow. So you start from the smallest component, let's say, in this case, this asset, which is just an ID with name, a symbol of the cryptocurrency, and you start building it up. So you use this fragment in, imagine this is a component called asset in React. You can do that, and it's very small, and then it's easy to test, it's easy to work with. That's super nice. And then you spread this one into a bigger one. For example, you would create, let's say, this top 10 fragment, which will just grab the first 10 asset and will print them. But as you can see, you just spread them in, and that's it. And you do that also on the query side. You take this one and you put it in. So imagine, then you will get this data out that we see here. So that's super nice. And the other nice thing is if you already have this data somewhere else, like this asset was already in some other, let's say, in some other fragment, like with the same name, symbol, whatever, then this goes into the Relay store, right? And you have it there. You don't need to fetch it again from the server. So that's another, say, plus on the Relay side. I think also Apollo Store has the same thing. There are two ways, let's say, to do the queries. You can do this lazy loading with the use lazy load query, which more or less what I'm doing here in my app. You can see it here. This is, I think, yes, you see, you use lazy load query. And here I'm doing the same. You see I'm spreading more fragments in, and then they're going into each component down there. Or there is another pattern which actually Relay is pushing for. It's called render as you fetch. So you will use this use preloaded query or use query loader. I mean, it depends how you want to play it. But the main idea is always the same. So you will try to get the data as soon as you can. So when you will actually render your component, you will already have the data there, and then it's immediate, like what, you get the data, super nice. It's a bit more complex to actually implement it because you need to work around the structure, but can be maybe rewarded if you have a small app maybe with just a little bit of data, and you want that data to be there as soon as possible so that it's like a better experience for the user. Yeah, that's all about queries. I will maybe talk a little bit more about pagination. So for pagination, we will use the use pagination fragment from Relay. It's based on cursors, we will see later. And you will need to use these few directives that comes from a relay as well. So you need these argument definitions, refetchable, and connection. So we can jump into this code. And here we can see, here it is. For example, this is one example of the pagination. So I can show you the app also here. And this is the pagination thingy. So as I said before, you will define your argument definitions where you will actually put your cursor there with which type it is. And you will use basically that cursor so that relay knows, OK, you are now here. I need to fetch the next 10 records, which goes from this cursor up. OK, you get this one. Or if you paginate back, it's the same. I'm here now with this cursor. It's like a string of some strange ID, whatever. And I need some records which were before there. That basically just goes left and right. Then you can specify this count is basically just how many entries you would like to pull. So you would like to display. So for example, here it's 10 records. You can apply your filters, your ordering. And OK, now the most important bit, I think, is this refetchable from relay. So what this thingy does, imagine when we use this query when we do the query with this fragment, imagine this in this screener, which is this screen, what we see here in this application. Here I'm spreading in this query. So that's why when I actually opened it, now the pagination actually didn't do anything because it was just a normal fragment, let's say, taking the 10 records, printing them there. And why we need the refetchable? Because whenever you are going to change something like the order or your filters, or you just want to fetch more with the load more, for example, here, these will just scope this part, will create like a new query, and then we'll actually just fire that query, and we'll update only that part. Basically, you get the data, you update your relay store with that data, and it updates only this section. Basically, it just adds these additional records. And it doesn't touch the other big query around, because maybe you will have more stuff there. You don't want to touch that stuff and cause a re-rendering throughout different parts of your apps. So this one is super nice because it just scopes to what you need. And then, of course, you need the connection to tell a relay which part you can paginate over. In this case, is this assets, right? And this needs to be done in a proper way in the backend. You know this, so you need the edges, you need the node, then it works. Good, so we can see it here in action. So for example, I can apply some filters, like I can filter it by, I can do some search, like Bitcoin, you see it just works. Or I can apply some ordering, like, I don't know, by name, it goes down. Or by market cap, again. And if you want to load more now, for example, I'm scrolling, there is no more, okay. But if I click the button, this button is ugly, but it's on purpose. Then you actually get more. You see 10 more, 20 more. That's nice. So there is, in React Native, normally you create this list using the list item component, the flat list, sorry. Like we see here. The flat list is actually quite nice because you can do, for example, you can do this. You can put an additional, you can pass this prop on end reached. So this means whenever the list reaches the bottom, we'll fire whatever you have here. And I can say, OK, load the next 10 when I get to the bottom. Then you get this infinite scrolling effect. We can check it if it actually works, right? So I will do that, and I will throw away the button. So, shoo, I will reload the app. Here we go. So now I can scroll, 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 and it just keeps going and even more. See, super nice, right? Or you can do what Martin did, I think, in the last talk. You have the button load more in the beginning, you click on it, and then this infinite scrolling starts to happen. You can do that as well. You have many options. There is one secret trick here with React 18. This is also for the web. as you maybe saw before, when I was filtering this, like this, Bitcoin or, I don't know, Ethereum, it's only this part of the application that is actually refreshing, right? It's updating, it's re-rendering. And this happens because you could do that with React 18. You can use this hook. So it's called, what it is? Here, use transition, right? And this will export like the start transition and this busy thing here, it's the Boolean, whatever. And you will wrap your state change, let's say, into this transition, start transition thing. For example, here this refetch will actually cause the state of my component to change. And that's why I'm wrapping it with that one. And what this does is it will just, for example, you can then play with that busy thing and you can put maybe an overlay over or whatever there. And this thing will just stay, for example, in my case, will stay, all the data will stay like it is until the new data comes, and then it will just switch. And as I said, you can play with that busy, because if you apply that busy, you can apply some, I don't know, glass pane over or whatever you want that looks better. And if you don't do that, if you just use, you have suspense as well in React 18, that actually it came before. If you use that one and you put around this query, what will happen is it could start to render what you don't want. For example, I did it on purpose in another example. For example, here I have this chart, and here I have, you can change, the chart by hour, week, month. And this is also like a paginator behind it. So if I change now this one, you will see what happens. Look, it's the whole screen is then flickering, right? We don't want that, right? So with the use transition, you can just grab that state change, apply it, and it looks way better. You just change what you want. Okay. Then for the last part, I have subscriptions. Yes. So with Relay, you can use the use subscription or request subscription. Basically, use subscriptions behind the scenes is actually calling request subscriptions. What it needs, again, in your Relay environment, you need to configure it right. There, actually, you can use, one of the good libraries, like React WebSockets or server-sent events, depends. I will come back to that later. And then the workflow is more or less similar to the query, right? So you put this subscription there. You say which part you basically want to subscribe to. That's not my screen. No. And basically, you will get these events from the server. Again, Relay will take the data, will merge it into the Relay store, and you will update only the parts you want. We can see this in action here on the app as well. For example, if we go back to the dashboard, we can see this price, for example, is changing all the time, and also these prices here are changing. These are all like subscribed to, yes, the subscription. What are we working next on here in Swiss life or in general? We would like to use the server-sent events for subscriptions, because currently this app is using the WebSockets. So we tried also doing it with that, but there is a problem with HTTP2 and the response, like the multi-part response that we get using the server-sent events, or even using the defer directive in Relay. By some reason, the data actually arrived, looks fine, but then, as I said before, React Native is not like a browser. So React Native has like the engine, the JavaScript engine is Hermes, it's not a V8. You need to polyfill a lot of stuff. And in this case, actually, you need to polyfill, for example, the text encode, decode, and maybe the polyfills, what we were testing at least, they were not good for our use case, and that's why we got the problem there and we couldn't make it work. So we are at that point. if someone actually were trying this, playing with it, and has some ideas, just poke me after the meetings, and maybe we can discuss. I would really love to see some ideas. Yeah, I guess that's it from my side. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, anyone has questions?
Awesome. Are there questions? Yeah, oh, first, applause. Any questions? No?
No. So everyone is an expert in React Native. And I will get a response today for my problem for it. Great. Should I disconnect or?
Yeah, you get it. Give me my micro back.
Yes. Do you need the display or I can show you?
No, we will. Okay, we are getting ready for Denis. This next talk. So while we're getting ready, if you want, you can grab a drink. And in the meantime, we are just switching laptops. So this time we first test it works. I don't know what it was. I think it was the side switch.
This time make it working.
Please.
Let me check. What was?
This one too? Is this the extra screen? Or?
If you want, I can borrow it.
Oh, it's the screen. It's this screen,
Yeah,
right?
I normally had it shared, like I put
Yeah.
it on this one.
That
If
was
it's
my
easier for
mistake.
you, I can-
Well, I mean, it's easier for me to see this screen
Okay.
if it's easy to set up again, though.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
not a
it
problem. I
should be automatic.
can just put it here
Awesome. Thank you, man.
and- So you just need this cable. Plug it in.
My
Okay, Denis,
computer?
can you say something?
Something. Hello, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Hello, hello, hello.
No, just something.
Something. Something. Something. Something.
Again.
Something. 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 Awesome.
So,
Hello.
His whole talk is just like something.
Something.
okay, let's mute it for a second. We are back in a second. So everybody listening, we are back
Oh yeah.
in a second.
We're good? I can start. Cool. So, thank you everyone for joining. I'm glad to be here. It's my first time in Zurich, actually, so yeah, pretty cool place. Thank you, Swiss Life, for sponsoring this meetup. Thank you for the free beer, especially. I'll be talking about GraphQL over internet, and please feel free to stop me at any point in time and shoot your questions. So, hello, I'm Denis, and I'm a part of this group of brilliant individuals called the Guild. And basically, we do open source, and we do it really well. This is my handle. You can see it, and you can find me pretty much everywhere using that handle. And all in all, I create and solve problems. Yeah. So this is the agenda. I'll start by giving you a short overview of the things we're going to talk about. This will be no talk about GraphQL without an introduction to GraphQL, so bear with me. Then we'll immediately jump talking about GraphQL over HTTP, over WebSockets, over server-side events, and then we'll compare it to WebSockets and the server-side events. And finally, I'll be taking your questions. And as I said, please feel free to stop me anytime and shoot your question. So what is GraphQL? In the simplest, most terms, it's just a data language. That's it, nothing else, nothing more. It is basically a system of communication. It defines a grammar, it defines the vocabulary, it helps you describe and request the exact data you want, and it also helps the server respond to that request, fulfill it with the data. Like in real world, those that speak the language can communicate. But please keep in mind, GraphQL itself is not a database, it's not a server, it is simply just a language. So imagine this, imagine ordering a pizza. You basically call and ask for a pizza with special toppings. Then the person on the other end takes the order and tells to the chef the pizza that you want to make. Well, GraphQL is kind of like that phone call. Basically, except instead of ordering pizza, you ask the server for data, and instead of speaking to a person, you are speaking to a server, sending a specially formatted message that's called a GraphQL query. And just like you ask for specific toppings, you ask for specific data from the server. And just like the pizza chef makes the pizza with the exact toppings, so does the server with your data. It responds exactly with the data you have requested. Immediately, we can see that there are some agreements on both sides. You know you're ordering a pizza, and therefore you know that which toppings you can choose from. Also, you know that both you and the waiter speak the exact same language, and subsequently, you know exactly what to expect when receiving your order, when picking it up, a pizza with the exact toppings you have orders. However, neither of you know or care about how the telephone works. Yet without it, you wouldn't be able to communicate your pizza order. Synonymously, GraphQL itself deliberately does not care about the transport. It doesn't care about how you send the request, how you receive the response, how you format it, what is the delivery path. All of this is basically out of GraphQL's scope. It's quite literally just a data language. Okay, so what now? GraphQL over HTTP to the rescue. HTTP is the most common choice when transporting GraphQL because of its ubiquity. With this in mind, a group of superheroes formed in 2019 to solve exactly this problem. A work group of avid GraphQL lovers, all with the same goal: standardize the process of transporting GraphQL over HTTP. The group mostly works asynchronously, but there are Zoom meetings where progress is shared and important topics are discussed. This is a joint effort, so everybody is welcome and everyone's opinion matters. There is already a specification being standardized, currently in the proposal stage, and the way it's done is like most popular servers are reviewed, conventions are researched, official guidelines are expanded upon, and a union of these insights help form the specification. It currently describes exclusively single response operation. This is the main focus, so no file uploads, no incremental deliveries yet. Okay, cool, so we have a starting spec, but what would a spec be without the reference implementation? So hello, GraphQL HTTP. It is a zero dependency server, client, and also an audit suite. The client is simple to use, but has some great niceties, one of them being silent retries of failed requests, which you don't often see in the client. It exclusively implements the current official GraphQL over HTTP spec. It does so in the clearest and the most explicit manner, so that others implementing their own server can quite literally use GraphQL HTTP as a reference implementation. This library is server agnostic, and as such can run in any JavaScript environment whatsoever. Additionally, it maintains a list of compliant servers and their reports. So please do PR your own implementation. You're more than welcome to do so. So quickly to show you the repository, you can find it in this link, also available in the presentation. And here you see under the section of servers, after a long introduction, you see a bunch of servers that are fully compliant, like GraphQL Yoga, which passes all of the 78 audits, and you can review them. Basically, you can see what those tests are, and you can see what the answers to those tests are. If some of the warnings are not implemented, you can expand upon the response and see more information about it. Additionally to that, there are simple example usages on how to start with GraphQL HTTP and a bunch of recipes of most common use case. Moving on, checking for compliance was actually never easier. GraphQLHTTP.com is a website for swiftly auditing servers, even those that are running locally on your machine or your network. It's always up to date with the current spec, and it's very safe. Everything runs in the browser. There is no tracking. There is no data sharing whatsoever. There are no external dependencies either, so you can freely download the website and use it as a portable offline checker. Let's see that. So also on the repository, you can go here and open the website. And this is pretty much it. Locally, we have a yoga server running, so I will be auditing it. And here, you can see the exact same report as you can see in the repository itself. Okay, cool. You can, of course, build real-time apps with GraphQL, apps that require subscriptions. So what about real-time? We've been talking about single response requests. Let's start by talking about GraphQL over WebSockets. Before we continue, I'd like to go over a brief overview of the history. Originally, there was this library called Subscriptions Transport WS. It was built and maintained by Apollo. It had an accompanying protocol or specification as well. But as time passed, they've spent less and less time on it, probably due to increase in demand in other areas. The repo grew in issues, and PRs were never reviewed, actually. It became unmaintained and therefore deprecated. But this library actually kickstarted and pushed the evolution. It was a big inspiration and a great influence for the upcoming refresh. That being the new modern GraphQL WebSocket implementation. So just briefly to go over what WebSocket is, it's a protocol that provides a persistent full duplex communication channel between the client and the server, allowing data to be transmitted in real time. Full duplex is basically a fancy word for bidirectional communication, and that means that at any point in time, both the server and the client can issue requests and send messages to each other. When used in conjunction with GraphQL, it allows clients to subscribe and receive events from the server in real time, making it ideal for operations that require real-time updates and push notifications as well. The GraphQL over WebSocket protocol leverages all pros and all cons of the WebSocket and gives a shine to real-time GraphQL. Do note that it's not backwards compatible with the Subscription Transport WS that I've mentioned before, and beware that the specification is still an RFC and it's open to changes. As I said, the specification goes best with the reference implementation. So hello GraphQL WS. It's a zero dependency server and client, very simple and bare bone, but don't be mistaken, it can be very versatile and quite extendable. One key element people often struggle with WebSockets are reconnections. GraphQL is all about stable connections. Silent retries with custom strategies are easy to use and extend. Oh, and it's completely server agnostic. It can run in any JavaScript environment. So, quite similarly, we have the repository of GraphQL WS, links available on the slide, as well as GraphQL HTTP. It has a few startup examples and a bunch of recipes that can get you up and going in no time. So do check it out. Moving on from WebSockets, another option for real-time is actually SSE, abbreviated from server-sent events. But those of you just might ask the question, why not use the native event source? Do we even need a whole specification? Are we even overthinking it? It's an excellent question, actually. Here's a few gotchas about the browser-native event source. Headers cannot be customized. The HTTP response is erroneous and not a 200 OK. Event source raises a very vague error, so you cannot investigate. The requests cannot have an accompanying body. It can only be a GET request. The retry mechanism is too simple. It will simply retry following an interval. Server might limit the length of the URL, and event source will continue reconnecting indefinitely if the server is the one that had closed the connection. Meaning if the subscription ends on the server side and you therefore close the connection, the browser will automatically reconnect. Keeping everything from the previous slide in mind, GraphQL over SSE specification is created. It basically fills in and lifts all usual limitations of SSE while keeping the browser-native event source in mind. So you're not locked to a library, you're still free to use it. It supports two different working modes, a distinct connection mode and a single connection mode. More about that in the following slides. Also note that this specification is currently an RFC and is therefore subject to changes. The first mode I want to talk about is the distinct connection mode. It's pretty much what you usually see with SSE. Each connection is a subscription on its own. The operation requests conform to the requests in the GraphQL over HTTP spec, but with two key differences. The content header must be event stream value so that the server knows that you are requesting an event stream. And all GraphQL errors must be reported through an established SSE connection. So you first have to accept the connection and then stream the error in a specific format through it. This also allows event sources to receive and have properly formatted and well-descriptive errors. An additional complete event that is used to indicate to the client that the subscription was completed from the server. So the subscription and the connection will not be just closed. The server will first notify the client that the subscription has ended and then close the connection. This makes event sources aware when the subscription is ended, server-side, and can be closed without unexpected behavior. The other mode I'd like to talk about is the single collection mode. Often talked about limitation of SSE is actually HTTP1. HTTP1 powered servers are limited to only 6 active connections per domain, meaning you can only have 6 concurrently active subscriptions at a time, while HTTP2 servers are by default limited to 100 active connections per domain. So you're actually preferred to use HTTP2 when using SSEs. The single connection works so that it creates a single connection to a server, which is used exclusively for streaming messages, for streaming the events as well. And then you issue separate HTTP requests to execute those operations. This property makes it safe for HTTP1 environments, but it also makes it safe for subscription-heavy HTTP2 environments, where you might have a lot of subscriptions because subscriptions are typically best when used granularly. These HTTP operations conform to the GraphQL over HTTP spec with just one difference. Instead of responding with the request, with the data, you actually respond with a 202 accepted, no data, and you stream the results to the single established connection. So the connection is the only one that's being used. Of course, a reference implementation goes along with the spec. GraphQL SSE is basically, again, a zero dependency implementation of both the server and the client. One cool thing is the fact that the server automatically detects the operation mode, so you don't have to do any configuration server-side. The client is pretty advanced too, and it offers a few interesting elements compared to event sources. It allows you to create custom retry strategies. You can decide exactly when you want to retry. Like you might have a health check on your server, and you want to wait for the server to become healthy before issuing a connection again, instead of just spamming it with requests. Since GraphQL SSE is packing a custom implementation of SSE and is not using the browser's event source, you're able to set custom headers. You can also add a body, and you can have very descriptive errors if such can occur. Like all the libraries mentioned in the presentation, GraphQL SSE is tool server agnostic, and it can run in any JavaScript environment whatsoever. Quick oversight of the website. This is the repository, and as the previous ones, there are quick start examples, as well as a bunch of recipes with the most common use cases that you might find yourself. Moving on, now that we have these well-established options, which one would you choose? Well, there are pros and cons to each and every one of them. Let's go through them. Basically, with WebSockets, you have real-time bidirectional communication. The latency is very low once that connection is established, but it has troubles with corporate firewalls because the upgrade request that transforms the HTTP to a WebSocket protocol is sometimes misinterpreted and therefore blocked by firewalls. Compared to SSEs, SSEs are transported over a very simple HTTP request. They have built-in retry for browsers, so it's actually quite easy to use and get started with, and they have absolutely no problems going through corporate firewalls. So basically, it's up to you to evaluate your needs and compare and decide which one you want to use. That's it. Thank you for your attention, and I'd love to hear your questions.
Awesome.
Yes, sir.
Just a clarification on SSE. The client can't send at any time it wants to, right? It's the server that can send.
Yeah, so the question is the client cannot send at any time. Exactly. The client can form a request in the HTTP request itself, but the server is the only one that can issue separate messages to the client. Any more questions?
I also have a question about GraphQL over servers and events.
Mm-hmm.
I might be misremembering this, but in the GraphQL over HTTP specification, doesn't the accept header now also play a role? I think on your slide you just mentioned something like here, accept header relevant there.
Exactly. So the question is, does GraphQL over HTTP accept header play a role? It does. In the HTTP spec, the accept header must be either application JSON or the new one, GraphQL response JSON, which is why I made a key difference in the SSE implementation where you cannot use either of those accept headers. You instead need to use the event source header to communicate to the server that you want the event stream.
Thanks.
Yes?
Thank you very much for your talk. How does GraphQL perform in comparison to gRPC?
How does GraphQL perform in comparison to?
gRPC?
Well, I mean, depends on your use case. Often enough, GraphQL is more about separating front-end from back-end and having an agnostic way of issuing and requesting data. Whereas with gRPC, you have to agree and have a protobuf that is shared between the server and the client as well. You don't have to have it on the client. You can basically introspect the GraphQL endpoint, see which data you can query, and without any additional work, you might request that.
Also, like GraphQL transport agnostic could be even requested over gRPC. You can do GraphQL over gRPC. There are several transport layers that allow that. So you can even combine that. But a typical setup is, for instance, the Twitter setup where we have Thrift, something similar to gRPC, which you use in your microservice setup, and then you have a GraphQL front end in front of that. So the GraphQL front end or the GraphQL service would communicate with the microservices with gRPC or Thrift, and the user, so your website user, whatever, would use the GraphQL layer to aggregate the data. So it's a combination.
Yes?
We got two questions from the online audience. So one is from Logic Labyrinth. What cons, I guess, connections are associated with using an SSE over a WebSocket?
What cons are associated with SSE using?
Over a WebSocket.
Okay, so as I've mentioned, it's basically up to you whether there is lower latency in WebSockets. Once you have an established connection, the connection is much faster to transmit messages, while SSE is just a plain old HTTP request. So you have all of that overhead of authenticating, identifying, and originating the request. But the benefit is that it runs everywhere. So if you've built apps using WebSockets before, you might notice that if users behind corporate firewalls use the application, the WebSocket will have a hard time connecting or will not be able to connect at all. So I would actually recommend using SSEs because you don't have this limitation, and you will certainly face it at one point in time.
Cool. I have another one.
Yep.
From Simon Birrer, our colleague as well from Nice. I would be interested how you do authorization with the SSE. For example, you can only subscribe if you are a member or have a paid subscription to make it real world. Is there anything on protocol level?
So the question is, how can you authenticate SSEs? Since SSEs are plain old HTTP requests, you can authenticate them however you want. You can put the token in the URL, you can add an additional header and have it there, or you can use cookies if SSEs are in the browser environment. And through that, you do your authentication however you want.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to understand what is the main problem that we'd like to solve with using HTTP for GraphQL, because most of the time the way it works. For example, probably like errors in the response, whereas you return another okay, or this kind of things. What is exactly the problem
That we are solving with HTTP, just
the specification to have GraphQL
over HTTP. Yes. So basically, scattered around the internet, you can find servers that play and work on GraphQL differently. And the idea behind the specification is actually to standardize this transport so that if you have a rogue server that you have never communicated before, you can at least accept and expect that it responds to a specific request with a specific format. So you can, however you want, design a server and communicate GraphQL itself over it, because GraphQL is just a data language. But by conforming and having a compliant server, all of the clients can agree that the server you're communicating with will respond in a well-formatted response.
And are you successful with trying to?
Yes, so we are by start successful because the process was reviewing and investigating what servers do in the environment, in the ecosystem, and somehow finding a union of what each of those servers share in terms of the formatting and the transport. And then around that, we started by creating a specification. So we are succeeding in terms of being able to encompass a bunch of servers that are already live and running. But all those new ones that people want to build from scratch, they have a specification and they don't have to think about and have this burden of how do I communicate in the best format with the client and how can the client expect a good answer.
I mean, one good example for this specification, why the specification is needed, is the status codes, right? Because that's one of the biggest disputes that we have in, for example, the Zurich things like that. It's why do we return this status code? And before we just had to say, because we do it that way. Now we can refer to the specification and we can say, it's a 200 because of that, it's a 401 because of that, it's a 400 because of that, and a 500 because of that. It's not really clear what status code you should return when there's no data system.
Yeah, it's essentially so that client libraries work with any server. So that's what you want to achieve. And yeah, it is quite a way. So it's still in draft stage. So I think the work group approved the draft stage.
Yep.
It was a couple of meetings ago.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still iterated on. So we're not there that we have a version 1 of the spec yet.
Yes, sir.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It was before you.
Just a question. How much adoption to this specification app right now? I think you partially answered already with the fact that you are getting information from the live environments that are around. But I'm just wondering, for example, client libraries and server libraries, how much, for example, of the WebSocket and SSE, which are, I think, the most important things right now, the most interesting things right now, how much are they effectively adopted already
Okay.
in the ecosystem.
Okay, so the question is, how are SSEs, HTTP, and the WebSocket protocol accepted and adopted in the environment? Basically, an answer to that is a bit varying. So with HTTP, you can see all of the compliance servers listed here. And the idea is to have more. So we kind of have this incentive. If your server appears here, you're doing GraphQL over internet, over HTTP, right? So all of those that don't comply should comply in a moment. So moving to WebSockets, there was this other protocol from Subscription Transport WS right here. And most of the libraries, the historical one that had originally implemented WebSockets, they still conform to this protocol. And the new one is not backwards compatible. So the adaptation is moving, it's gaining traction, but it's still semi-slow. For example, if you use AWS Amplify, they still use the old protocol and not the new one. But the new one has enhancements, and the migration path is quite clear, and the library is well maintained as well, if I may say, and therefore you are incentivized as well to move forwards. And a lot of people are already doing that. So I know a bunch of libraries, especially those that are listed here, if they offer a built-in solution, they do support the new protocol. Yeah. Then GraphQL SSE, there was no protocol before. So this is the first one that is there, and the Hot Chocolate web server, for example, implements it. Yoga implements it. You basically can plug this library into any JavaScript server, and it would implement it as well. You can expose it behind a route. So the process of the implementation is actually quite simple. You basically read the document if you're using a different programming language, or you use the library to do the heavy lifting for you. But since it's fairly new, so the server-sent events protocol is fairly new, I cannot give an accurate answer on the adaptation. Because often people use the bare, simple, and the most minimum solution, which is just an event source, and that's it. Sometimes that's just enough, but this has some enhancements that will guarantee quality and will guarantee like a longer life, if I may say it that way.
Any way to use GraphQL SSE with relay?
Yes.
Yes, we are doing that.
Yes.
So Swiss Life is doing that, by the way. I think Domen told us
Here's
about
actually how it works. So there is an example of how to use it. Often enough, framework libraries, they don't implement the transport. They just do GraphQL on the front end. So it's your task to implement the transport. And on all of the 3 libraries that are listed here, there is a relay example. And integrating it's quite easy. Also for the other clients. So you might want to use Oracle or Apollo, or you just want to have an async iterator or an observable on top of that. So it's really up to you. Any other questions?
I have a question. We use it, of course, and the problem that we have as the event source is not native, we cannot debug it in the browser using the developer tools. Do you have some hack there, some way to do it?
Okay, so the question is, event source is hard to debug in the DevTools. Yes. GraphQL SSE is also hard to debug with DevTools, and the simple reason behind that is it doesn't use event source behind the curtains. It actually implements its own reader and parser of the streams themselves. But it has helpers. So it has a hook that's called onMessage, and it basically exposes every single message that you have received over the transport.
But have you been thinking something like an extension for Chrome or something like this?
Yeah, there is an interesting project called GraphQL Network Inspector, and they are currently supporting only single-streamed requests and responses, but the idea is also to support subscriptions, both GraphQL WS and SSE, and I think this is the biggest pain point, not just with SSE, but also with WebSockets. And finding your request in abundance of messages, it's quite hard.
WebSocket, we can read them.
We can read it, but it's kind of disorganized because the messages can come and go like very randomly. But with this GraphQL Network Inspector tool, I might Google it. I think this is, yes, this is the tool I'm talking about. So it really is a Chrome plugin, and you basically plug it in, and you get a really nice overview of all of your queries and mutations. The next step would be to inspect subscriptions, and it will be much more organized because you can sort and filter out the exact operations that you're making and see all of the events that has been streamed through it, compared to using the raw DevTools and just reading the messages. Any more questions?
Yeah, one question. What's your experience, if you have any, in scale between WebSockets compared to SSE? When you think about, you have a high throughput API, you have many consumers. What's your experience when you say, when should you go for SSE or WebSockets, depending on scale? Is there a factor that decides which
Okay. So the question is, how does scaling work with WebSockets and SSEs, and how would you compare them? So WebSockets, being server agnostic, you can actually integrate it with this very fast and very efficient library called Nano WebSockets. Here's an example here. And the actual library itself is implemented in C, so it's ultra performant and ultra fast. So if you need scaling in terms of WebSockets, you can use that library. But the difference is WebSockets are not multiplexed if used over HTTP2. Each connection is a TCP connection on its own, and that can have a toll on the server. Compared to SSEs, which can't be multiplexed in an HTTP2 environment, you might have a server that has a single TCP connection, yet still a lot of requests and responses can pass through it. So, yeah, you have to optimize it. But I haven't used neither of these libraries in such a scale where the performance would matter that I have to reinspect the code. Cheers.
I think it's around 50,000 concurrent connections, something that range
With-
for servers.
For server standard?
Yeah, but
Depends on
you
what
can
you
even
use.
optimize that. So
That's the range.
no, but Hasura takes one server and they have 1 million connections on there. So it depends on, with virtual network adapters, you can handle a lot more.
But below 50,000 is probably not a...
Yeah, if you do nothing, it's 50,000 something. But you can optimize. You can handle 1 million connections on a server. So that's great. And one thing with the WebSocket is also like, so going to the new protocol is actually easy because there are sub-protocols, right? And so you can actually check which client is connecting and then use the new or the old from the backend side. That's what we do with Hot Chocolate. And the other thing is, what is nice with WebSockets is that you actually can do multiple subscriptions on the client over a single connection. So you can also multiplex there. One thing to consider. I, in general, am in favor of the SSE stuff more because it's easier. Authentication is the same as with any HTTP post request, so it's super easy to use. Yeah, choose your stuff, whatever you like, but it's all good. Any questions?
There is no question, but in the YouTube we have a mention from Logic Library thanking the guild for making such cool tools. So congratulations on what you do.
Cheers. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, so we are switching up. Next talk is coming soon. It's Rafi who is talking about Banana Cake Pop, a GraphQL IDE. Yes. While he's setting up, you can grab a beer and get recharged.
Cheerio. Thank you.
There has to be at least one another question, right?
Yeah, it's transport. I knew it gets people excited, you know.
Yeah, sure does.
Hallo, hallo, hallo.
Okay.
Hello, hello.
We are almost back. 2 more seconds, and then we go on.
So.
Okay, everybody in?
Sound is on.
The sound is on, and let me switch.
That's the wrong one, actually.
Pardon?
How do you make a banana cake pop?
You like a real banana cake pop? Last meetup we had banana cake, we had cake pops. I think next meetup we will do that again. So if you come.
In a microwave or something like that?
No, you bake them, then you bake actually the cake, then you crumble the cake and you mush it together, put it in chocolate, and that's a banana cake pop. I bring them next time. Next time I bring them again. So next meetup, Felfel, I bring cake pops again. Okay, Rafi.
Let me just switch to. No, not mirror. Don't want a mirror. Come on. So.
You need the tech guy?
Yes, of course.
I did today already 3 laptops, so it's.
The funny thing is, this talk is completely unprepared, so I'm just a filler for Benjie, who couldn't make it. But yeah, it's already.
Sorry for my joke earlier then.
Okay.
So.
Before the mention of Michael about the hookup, I was thinking now.
That's the wrong
It's
one.
time to show the banana.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
No,
I'm
I want to show
Yeah, go.
the cam link on here. Arrange, click arrange.
Yeah. It's very difficult with delay. The cam link. This is the other one. And this mirrors the cam link. Whoops. And there
It's
we go.
complete the opposite. But
Yeah, they're right. Oh, you wanted this one.
no, I wanted this one there.
Okay. So this one, you want? Okay. This one, cam link. This one, and then this guy goes here. Have fun.
It's still not the right screen.
It's the right screen.
I want to have this one.
I had this.
Okay.
Now this one is.
Just flip the screens around.
Yeah, just. So.
So you want this one on there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just one more second here. The technician guy will handle that.
We are getting a free course in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
Probably just grab some drinks out there and.
Do you need a Windows PC?
no.
I knew it was just a matter of time for this to come up.
It's actually easier on the Mac.
Waiting 30 years.
It's actually easier on the Mac, but
It's going to be the
I had this set up like this. But okay, now go ahead. No more switching.
Okay. Then I will move this here. And move that there.
But you said this one on there, oh?
Yeah,
You know, he's my brother.
yes.
I had to live with this for
All your life.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for being here and joining us here. And thank you, Swiss Life, for having us here and supplying all the people here with nice drinks. Today, or let me just first introduce myself. My name is Raphael Stape, and I'm one of the contributors to the GraphQL platform of Chili Cream. And also I'm one of the co-organizers of this event. So, and also I'm the author of Banana Cake Pop, which is our GraphQL IDE. And I'm going to show you today just a couple of features we introduced with the last two versions. Not all of them, but a couple of features. And if you're interested in Banana Cake Pop, our GraphQL IDE, you can just go to https //bananacakepop.com, and then you will end up here. There you have a download button to install the app on your computer. But also we have here options for like the online version, and also a online version for insiders. So we are offering insider builds. Sometimes we pushing a few builds every day. So you can go there and check out the cutting edge stuff of Banana Cake Pop. Sometimes features break things, but we hope that you report us those things and help us from not having these last-minute showstoppers getting into our prod version. So I will start with two cool features we introduced with Banana Cake Pop 3 and 4. One is we have now a middleware for JavaScript servers. So before we had just a middleware for hot chocolate. So we have actually a app which you can install on your machine. Or we have the online version, which you can just open through this link I clicked. This is our online version here. And we have a middleware which can be put together with a GraphQL server. Before we had that only for hot chocolate, which is a GraphQL server for .NET. But now we are able to have this also available for JS GraphQL servers. So because we have today here a guild member, I will use Yoga for this demo here. Just let me put this one on the screen. I will maximize this. So,
Can you zoom in, Rafi?
oh, I'm just a Mac guy. How does it work?
Command plus.
What?
Command plus.
Command plus.
Command plus. It's not working.
Go in. Okay.
So the technician guys comes in again.
You're welcome.
Nice. That's the reason why I have a brother, you know. So we have now a package on npm.js.org. If I go there, you can see this is the Banana Cake Pop Express middleware. And here's actually a nice README how you could put things together. Also, we have a bunch of receipts here at the bottom. For this demo, I will, of course, use the great GraphQL Yoga receipt. Copy. And then, wait.
Slide to the side.
Where's it?
Slide to the side.
Okay. It's gone.
There.
It's not. How did I do that? Sorry. Really sorry. Foo. There we go. So I will now, okay, before I get started, I've created a new folder called foo, and I put in here a helpful README how to set it up actually. So the first thing we need to do is, of course, grab the receipt and then create a index.js file where we put in the receipt I copied. Just create this file and paste the code here and press save. And then let's go to the next step, which is init the project. Just need to get the terminal here. So I will do the yarn init. Yes. So that's how we do stuff in JavaScript, you know. So next thing is we have to install, of course, a couple of dependencies here. We'll just grab this and press enter. It's very fast internet here. It's not cached, it's real time, you know. So there we go. Next thing is I have to remove one property in the package file and add another one. So I will go and remove this property here and add this one. Go for the module. Save this. And now we could just type into node index.js, and our GraphQL server came up. So I can just click this link here, and there we go. We have a banana cake pop running as a JS middleware here on the GraphQL Yoga server. Just can hit the run button here, and then I get my result. So you can, of course, use it also with Apollo or whatever you would like to use a banana cake with. So that's one new feature. Another cool feature is we are now capable of copying curl requests or even fetch requests. For example, if we are trying to find out issues in the network console of Chrome, then we could just grab the request. Let me show you that by opening the Chrome tools and then just execute this query here. No. Too many screens for me. Yeah. I cannot handle them, sorry. Then I can go here to the GraphQL request, which came up in the network console, and just copy it. For example, use the copy curl, go to our nice JavaScript middleware, and press the three dots here, and just say new document from clipboard. And there we go, we have the complete GraphQL request copied, including the variables and also the HTTP headers. So this is pretty cool because all the new GraphQL IDEs or tools have a functionality implemented like that, copying a GraphQL request via curl. So this is another cool feature. And we have also a shortcut for that. On Mac, it's Option Command V, and then we just create a new document from this copied request. So, and I also mentioned the insider version we have. So if you would like to go for the cutting edge features, we can just go here on the insider version. And there we have already implemented a few features which are not available on the prod version, like, for example, save all or save, which were requested for a long time, actually. And a couple of other stuff. I mean, oh, here I have even an update. I will quickly update. Okay. Now we are running the newest version, which is Insider 3. And there we have also new indicators for errors, which I want to show. Now we have here indicators for errors. Pretty awesome. Yeah, and we have also the enhanced schema reload button, which is now giving us feedback whenever we're updating a schema. What is coming next? I mean, this is really stuff which would even, I think, could break here in the demo. We are coming up with APIs, which is actually a collection of documents sharing the same connection setting in every document. So here we have, for example, an API called a bar. And if we go there to the connection settings, we could configure it one time, including all the authorization settings and headers, whatever. And then this connection settings will be used in all those documents. It's actually shared. So you just set it up once for all the documents. And this is coming in BCP 5. And in BCP 6, we will also introduce environment so that you can do variable interpolation in the connection settings, for example. So that is actually all I want to show you for today. And yeah, just want to say thank you.
Yeah, so 2 hours before the meetup, I pushed him into that because Benjie couldn't do it. So,
yeah.
Are there questions?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Are there questions? Coming back.
It's just your code base originally, is that VS Code? What did you start out with? You didn't make the whole installation yourself.
You mean Banana Cake Pop, which editor it is using? Yeah, we not VS Code, but the core of VS Code, which is Monaco. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, Banana Cake Pop is running on VS Code or the Monaco core, and runs anywhere, and is one of the, I would say no, it's one of the best GraphQL IDs that you can use. You can use it with any GraphQL server that is out there. You can sync documents, you can have multiple APIs there. As Rafi said, there is coming variable interpolation and things like that. So it's a great tool when you develop GraphQL APIs to test your GraphQL server with, find bugs out. The curl feature he had is most likely you have an application running and you run into an issue with that, and then you can just go into the dev tools, copy the stuff as a curl, and then paste it into Banana Cake Pop and debug your GraphQL request with all the state that you aggregated in your client application. So it's a great tool to help you develop GraphQL. And it's free.
Free, yes. Yes, again.
Can I use it to do the same tests as our previous presenter was showing with the servers, like testing the compliance of the servers? Can I just press a button and see how my server is compliant?
Oh, no. You mean this? We could build that in. Actually,
Yeah,
yes, we can hook that to. We will sit down together with Dennis,
I mean,
and
it's a nice demo, right?
that's actually a cool thing.
And you could even have a little green mark that the server is compliant or something.
We will do that.
There's one thing which is pretty nice about it. It supports both subscription protocols. So when you have the issue that your current ID or GraphQL client does not support it, you just plug in this and it will figure it out. So it does work.
Yeah, that's also a good thing.
Yeah.
You
Dennis, we will need you for a few more days, so.
Unlock.
It is.
That's actually a cool thing. So what Pascal said is, if you're here on the settings dialog, and actually we have this subscription protocol auto detection, because we are speaking everything. So you can use the WebSocket protocol, GraphQL WS, you can use GraphQL SSE, or you can use the Apollo protocol. We are figuring that out automatically, so we probe the server if you don't say anything. But you also can try all the protocols that Denis does, or this shabby little legacy protocol. You can also try that.
And ignore this error. This is just my local dev version, so.
Good. Are there other questions? No? There?
Yeah. Just on your setup, what exactly is your middleware doing in there? Because it was like I just thought you need the ID and the server, and you kind of put this in there in the middle.
Yeah, you can just deliver banana cake pop on your own URL, you know. So just as an exploration point, of your GraphQL server.
So typically, if you host your GraphQL server on production, you won't have this, right? In production, you might not want to expose that, but on your development server, you then just start your GraphQL server, and developers just can go to that endpoint in your company and have banana cake pop or use this GraphQL IDE to explore what is wrong with the server. Sometimes, like if you're GitHub, for instance, GitHub is hosting their own GraphQL API for actually the end users, then it might even be cool to expose it to your end users on production. So it's essentially a way to communicate with your GraphQL server. Think about Swagger. Not a good thing, but they also have these test endpoints where you can check what REST APIs you have, and you can also try them out. It's the same thing, but better. Because it's GraphQL.
It remembers the state we're in, so which document you have selected and whatnot on the same domain that you are, also in the same region. So when you're developing and you specify your server starts and it opens this, then you write your query and then you close it because you have to change to your server and you restart it. It opens up the same thing where you left it up. So you just press again and it runs the query. So
and there's actually one more thing. So if you're a Windows user and you are in a strict environment, like many of us are, so in Swiss Life we have that, for instance, then you can just go to this nice URL, eat banana cake pop, because they are edible. And then you actually can install it. Is this for installing it as a...
Yeah, this one.
This one?
Yeah.
Then you can install it as an application. So this is essentially a PWA. It feels and works like a proper installed application, but it's actually the web application, just wrapped in an application, and it works on any environment that you have. Just a nice add-on. Okay, any more? Okay, then we have lots of gear outside. Damn it!
Does it have a dark theme?
Yes, of course. The most important thing here. but I don't know whether I'm able to change it, you know. I'm just a Mac guy here. So there we go. And there are more themes coming pretty soon. Domen will help us on that one. So
there's one
now
more.
you know.
There's actually one more feature, and that was the most difficult to implement. So if you go on our logo here, can raise the sunglasses. No, not good? Okay. Okay, with that, let's go and get some beer and do some networking.